about rock climbing then. Let's go quick story.
Okay.
So,
Quick story rock
yeah.
climbing. Before we knew how to rock climb.
Oh yeah, way
Is that
before.
where we're going?
Do you remember the one where I was alluding to last time on Bull and Pitcher? Do you have any recollection of that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I don't know how accurate my memory is of that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like so many early like playing on rocks things after I know what I'm doing was like so idiotic.
Oh yeah. It was really dumb.
Yeah.
So in your estimation, how high was that wall we were climbing?
About 50 feet.
Okay, that's exactly what I felt it was.
At the most. It wasn't more because it wasn't a big wall by any means.
No.
But it was far enough to where, and it was fallen basalt though for probably like probably another 50 feet of elevation.
If not 100.
Maybe, yeah.
was-
But it's always hard to say once you add a slope to it, it's hard to calculate that.
True.
But yeah, so there's all that fallen basalt rock, and out at Riverside State Park where the basalt is like notoriously not stable.
Yeah.
And the reason there are not climbing routes in that area is because you can't put bolts on that stuff because it just falls apart. Like it doesn't hold.
Exactly.
So, because there's other parts of Riverside State Park that do have climbing routes on them.
Yeah.
And yeah, but that's where the rock actually stays still. So
Man. So this hill, you have to like scramble up this fallen basalt hill basically with constant feet like slipping out from under you. And again, I think it's closer to 100 feet that you got to crawl up this hill to get
it was a
to
ways,
get to this wall. It's at least 50, but I mean, my feeling was it was like 100. And then we get to the top and we start climbing. And I remember is we climbed parallel to each other, like just side by side climbing up. And I don't remember it being a difficult climb. I remember it being relatively easy, a lot of footholds.
Well, that's why we did it, because it was looking at this like, oh yeah, and basalt also tends to be tricky that way anyway, where it looks real easy to climb, and then sometimes it then quickly is not. But in this case, I don't remember that being a hard climb at all.
And
which is why we just kept going.
Yeah, and I remember being pretty careful about it. I remember like intentionally focusing on like we knew that if you fall, there's a very steep, sharp basalt rocks where we're going to get super hurt no matter what. Yeah. So I remember being very intentional about like checking your handholds and footholds multiple times as you go, like making sure you're solid. And at the top of it, it was just like, that's the top of Bull and Pitcher. So it's just like grass bluff. It's just nothing up there.
But still on a steep slope.
Well, I didn't realize that until we got there. And so I remember going up having a pretty easy time for the most part. And then got to the top where I can see the ledge, like it slopes up and it's like all mossy basalt rock. So it's mossy basalt rock. And I go to grab and the moss comes off and I'm swinging, clearing away the moss and trying to find a handhold and I can't find anything. And
then it was slippery and muddy under
and that. I don't think I can see you at this point. So we're 50 feet up and you're on the side of me, but I think we veered just away where I can't really make out where you are. That's my memory. And so I'm clearing out all the moss and it was probably like 5 minutes, but it felt like a long time there at the top. I'm at the top and I can't get over because it's just a steep bank up with muddy, mossy, slippery basalt and no hold. And I remember finding a hold finally. It's like I probably had to reach for something really far. I don't remember exactly what I did, but I remember finding a hold and scrambling up and getting safe and then coming over by you and you being stuck. Completely stuck. And I remember having to
nothing, I couldn't find anything to grab at all.
Yeah.
I was like pulling grass and moss and then it was just getting muddy.
Yeah.
So it's still really slippery. And also I remember as we're going, like what's normal is if you're 10 feet off the ground, you can down climb.
Right.
As soon as you get over 10 feet above, and some people are really good at it, but climbing down is so much harder than climbing up.
Oh, absolutely.
And we were not experienced at climbing at all. We're just screwing around. We didn't have shoes that were good for this. We're probably in running shoes or skate shoes. So nothing that's really going to be helpful at all.
Yeah.
So then our feet aren't gripping that much. We're basically doing chin-ups up the thing.
Yeah.
And then get to where now our hands don't work, but we don't know what we're doing with feet, and we don't have proper shoes.
Right.
So it's just getting more and more slippery. and we're way up there, and I'm starting to think through, I think I have to down climb, but also if I do down climb, I don't think I make it down.
Right.
Like I kept trying to like move down a little bit and find a good foot spot and couldn't find it.
Right.
And so I was there totally stuck. You got over the top, and and then I think if I remember right, you got in a place where you could basically give me a hand.
I think there must have been a bush or something that I could hold on to, or so.
It was just further up than where I could reach.
Yeah, and I could then give you a hand and hold on at the same time. Because I remember, giving you just a little bit. You just need a little bit of a reach to get the hold you couldn't grab, and then you were able to scramble.
And
up.
even then, because the slope was, again, knowing what I know now with you, if you're topping out while bouldering, if you have something that's more like straight up, and then it's a 90 degree, you can bend your body over that 90 degree and pull yourself across. But it wasn't. It was straight up to then almost straight up in grass.
Exactly.
So then you're like scooting along that stuff, but that wasn't a safe place to be at all either, And so no, we just got in there, and that could have gone so bad.
It's really bad, because if you fall from that, I mean, that's like multiple broken legs, arms, and most likely a severe head injury too.
Yeah. You wouldn't have the impact of falling 50 feet to flat where it's like, okay, you're probably just dead, but you would then tumble another 100 feet down sharp rock that then it's just going to hit everything. There's no way you're stopping any of that.
Yeah.
As you're going down.
I don't remember if we had a conversation afterwards, but I remember being very clear in my head that I don't want to climb up anything that I'm not willing to fall down off of after that. I'm like, if I'm okay falling or jumping off of this, I'll climb it with like very little risk of injury. But after that, so it's like 10, 15 feet, maybe 20 if it's really safe. But like, that's it. I'm done.
And I'd put myself in that position several times before that. And that one, I think, was one of the scariest for sure.
Yeah.
And it definitely did. I don't know if I actually stopped doing things like that at that point, but it did put a pause in it, like, okay, I like doing this, but I'm going to have to know how to do it if I'm going to continue doing this. And so I think that I kind of steered away from those things.
Yeah. Totally.
Until like I actually learned how to do it.
And there was a lot of years, at least for me, before I learned how to actually climb and properly and correctly. But I still don't have a desire to do, even when I was climbing a lot, I never wanted to do anything high like that again. It just wasn't. Yeah. It's not appealing to me at all. Like I went and did some top rope stuff with you somewhere in Spokane, like quite a few years back when I was climbing a lot. And I remember getting up like 3/4 of it, and I'm just like, I just don't care anymore. It's too high.
So you and I have we both really like to go out and adventure and stuff, and go out and just find, just get. I think that there's a little bit of a drive for both of us that's similar, where we have a curiosity to, what's around the next corner, what's over there, and that sort of thing. But we tend to adventure in opposite ways. So for instance, I always want to know what's at the top of things. So, like even where you and I pick different camping spots, you want to camp by water, you tend to be in a valley. I want to camp at the top of a mountain. Right. And so, for me, that is the curiosity. I want to know what's up there, and I want to know what the view's like from up there. Is just what I was, and it, like everywhere I go, I always want to know, hey, what's at the top? Yeah. That always happens. So I don't think though you have the drive in the same way. So what motivates you then? Where's the difference here? It's the adventure and the curiosity for sure, but it's just, I don't want to do that much work for it. Okay. I didn't think it was from a laziness standpoint. No, it's pure laziness. I mean, that's what most of my desire for things, adventure stuff is. Like, how can I go into this with the least amount of work and still have fun? So I'm willing to put in a lot of work, but I don't want to put in that much, right? So there's our big difference between the two of us, because for me the work is the fun. Yeah, and that the work is not the fun. The work I'm willing to do, and I'm willing to work really, really hard for things that I want. And so like I wouldn't classify myself as being a lazy person, but it's got to be worth it, and I got to have motivation for it. Because so that's the rock climbing thing is a perfect example. Is going up, you're climbing,
And I got, I don't know how high the wall was. Couldn't have been maybe 50, 70 feet, something. And I got 3/4 up, and I'm like, I just don't care to reach the top. My arms are burning. I can get the same level of satisfaction from bouldering up to 10 feet. And I don't get the reward at the top of jumping down or something. Like belaying down isn't fun to me. Whereas like bouldering, you get to go and you just jump off the top. And that's super fun.
I wonder though, have you done very much rappelling, where you get to rappel yourself down?
No, that's the only time I've ever rappelled. So I've never done it at all.
Because I think that would, because I also don't. I mean, when you climb with someone that you're used to all the time, and then they know how to lower you in the right way, then it can still be fun because you know exactly what to expect. They speed up when they see certain sections, they slow down certain sections. You just know it. Like Christy and I know how to lower each other exactly the way we want. And I have a few other climbing friends that are like that too, where you just know exactly what to expect. Yeah. But it's not abnormal. I get to the top of something, it's a little bit tricky. And if I have to reconnect the rope up there, because we're going to bail out anyway, I'll reconnect it and run both lines all the way to the ground and then rappel on my own instead.
Oh, okay.
Because then I get to control how fast I go. And in certain sections, I go really fast. I can really launch out. And then I can go slower when it's like, well, I might break my leg if I do that here. Yeah. And anyway, you might get a kick out of it if you got that opportunity.
It's very possible. It's possible I just haven't put in the time to do it and to learn where the fun of it is. But at a glance from the outside perspective and a little bit I've done, like I just, it's getting the whole, so much work to get up to the top just isn't there. Well, it's like hiking over here for me. People want to go on hikes and they always talk about the views. Like, if you go up to Mount Kilchuk over here, or Mailbox Peak, or like all these cool hikes that are very difficult. Like, it's so cool. You're up top and you see, the whole state and all these mountains and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but I've seen that on just snowboarding. Like, it's not that cool. So if I go up and I hike, I want to jump in a lake or something. Like I want the reward to be tangible, not just like a view. Because a view, I've seen tons of cool views, like, and they're all kind of the same after a certain point.
Sure.
And so
it feels opposite to me. They're all different. Like, exactly. Like, no, I want to always see another view from the top, or even if it's the same one I see all the time. Like even just moving where we live now, where I live on the side of a hill. So I have, and it's not it's not like a great view, but it's not like living down in town, right? So like I have a little bit of a view, and that it never gets old for me still, even that, where it's not the best, but I'm just up a little bit and I can sit on my deck and look out over that all day long.
Yeah. When I don't want to downplay how much I do value a view, because I do enjoy it. I think it's just the work for the view isn't worth it sometimes. It's how much work for the view, because I can get a really good view a lot of ways with less work. It's just the laziness what it comes back to. I just don't want to work that. It's got to be worth it to do a lot of work. And
well, what's great about this conversation right here is it fits into our I think what's really helpful about like what I'm seeing as a general theme to our conversations here is our general theme is that okay, so we might do these things, we have similar things there, but the motivation for those things is different. Also, it's not like you just okay, so we like doing these things, some of the activity things, but also just we like doing things that keep us fit. And that is not because we're not lazy, or you just like don't have that other thing, so like everyone struggles with these things of this is hard, I don't want to do it, right? And there's a certain types of hard in some areas, and I just noticed that I think that for everyone I know has a drive to push through some hard things in some areas because they just want to and it's fun, and not much of a drive through the other things because there hasn't been a thing there that really benefits them. And right here's a perfect example where the drive for you to get to the top of a mountain, and the work that it takes to get there it's not worth it to you.
Yeah.
Like that's not fun for you,
Yeah.
you know? And where for me, that's super fun. So if I do have a day off, yeah, I do want to go to the top of a mountain. I want to see what's up there again, even though I've already been there several times. You know, like right now there's 2 inches of snow on Mount
Yeah.
Spokane. I want to hike up there.
Yep.
I want to see what it's really like. The snowboarding down would be horrible. I'd enjoy walking up there the entire time.
Yeah.
I would like every bit of it, you know? And so that's where, you know, and I think that sometimes, you know, depending on we look at people that are maybe more fit than us, and you think, oh, they don't have that thing, or they know how to push harder than us, or maybe they just enjoy a different thing more, you know, and you know, people that might be less fit than where we're at, well, they've got to drive somewhere else probably, you know, and more respect for a different thing. But I do find that it seems that humans all kind of work in this general area where we have things that we do have the drive for, and we have things we don't.
Yeah, I also think that people's level of hard is just different. What is hard for somebody is like, it's not harder or more. What I'm trying to say, the suffer someone is willing to go through is specific to their experience, and so
Sure.
Objectively on the outside it might look like it's easy for someone else, but if that's the hardest they've ever worked, that's the hard they know that difficulty,
Right.
and it takes a substantial shift in mindset to get over that hump and work hard for something else, you know, from
Right.
you know, from a weight loss perspective, it's a lot of work to lose weight, you know, body fat. And then you get to a point where you kind of, as you lose more, it gets harder and harder. Your discipline has to be more, and you have to be put in more work or at least more effort to get to that last little bit. If we're talking, you know, the under 10% body fat for men, that type of thing. And so I think people, what they're willing to go through, like a hike, you know, this hike is really, really hard. It's a 3 mile with 1,000 elevation. That's not that hard. But for them, that's the hardest they've ever done. That's a really hard hike.
Yeah, it's not going to feel great. 1,000 elevation is always a significant
exactly
amount.
Right. So like it just depends on what. Yeah, I think exactly what you're saying. People are willing to do hard things, but the hard is relative to their life, and it might not be hard for us, or it might be really hard for us because it's totally different what we're willing to put ourselves through.
Well, I think that can be an encouraging thing for people too is, so this is an area where for me, I want to do it. It's enjoyable. It's not different than though. So like you're much more of a musician than I am. Like I can play some things a little bit, but the getting good at an instrument for me is extremely difficult. Like that is not something I want to push through at all. And, and that's way harder for me than going for a long, hard run or, you know, or the other athletic things. And so I see my friends that have all that musician ability and not ability, the drive in that way. And, man, I don't have that at all. So there's several things that are similar to that like, that seems way too hard.
Yeah, that's where your worth it isn't there.
Yeah, it's not there, and it's overwhelming to even think about, you know, getting better at any of the instruments I can play a little bit. The idea of trying to figure out how to play better than where I'm currently at is excruciatingly hard to even think about.
Yeah, it's like when I'm exactly the same, I think, just on a different level than you when it comes to music. It's like I'm willing to go to a certain point with practice and effort, but only to a point. I remember a turning point for me like 10, 12 years ago over here in Seattle. All the bands I was in were kind of breaking up. They weren't going anywhere. And I had a couple studio opportunities and I sort of recorded with a couple people. And then it was like a fork in the road. It's like, okay, my life could be this. I have the talent, I know, to go this route and be a professional drummer. But I need to start taking a lot more lessons and put a lot more work into it and practicing a lot more. And I thought about it for a while. And I'm like, I don't care enough. I don't like it that much to put that much more work into it. I hate practicing. I like to practice with people. I like the art of creating music. I like the collaborative aspect of it. And so I like to be good enough to do that. But to sit down like our friend Luke, who is a professional drummer, he would just sit and play and still does forever. and you're like, I just don't care that much to sit and play by myself.
And he has that drive.
Exactly.
With all the different things. That's why he was such a good skateboarder too. He can sit and just do the same thing over and over and over again to perfect it.
Yeah.
And I think you have a little more of that than I do, as far as
on certain things,
hitting something and just doing that. And I am so on to the next thing so quickly, and so it doesn't work very well. But I do have, and I also get content with like my skateboarding, where like, okay, well, I learned how to do this thing, which basically I haven't improved much since the 1 year that we really pushed hard at it and got really broken. But as far as like park skating, I haven't really improved since then at all. I've probably gotten more comfortable. I'm more fluid now and stuff like that, but I can't do anything that I couldn't do then at all. And it's been now, almost 20 years.
Yeah, I know.
Since we did that one summer and like really pushed hard to try and get good at that. And, but I don't have that drive there. I don't like the idea of the amount of pain that I'm going to have to take in order to get to that next level. And so I just kind of stalled out there. And, and I'm happy with where I'm at with that. But that's where climbing for me is the other way around, where like I'm looking at, there's certain types of routes at a certain level that I'm not at yet that look so much fun.
Oh yeah.
And so I do want to go out and climb 5 days a week to get that, and like that's not reasonable at all these days. And I'm going to have to get in that kind of fitness to get up to the level. But it's like, you look at that rock wall and like, ooh, that's the one I want to do. And every time I look at it, I'm like, okay, those are all rated at this level. That's a little beyond where I'm at now. And it's going to take a serious push to get there. But, anyway, so there's a number of things like that. But I think that's also a getting older thing too, where I can do that without serious injury. I can do that without breaking any bones. I can get to that next level with climbing like that relatively safely. I just need to get better fitness, and I also need to, better technique and just get better at it, really put in some miles on the wall. And then running is the exact same thing again, where it's like, well, I'm not going to get hurt doing it, so that's nice. It doesn't take me out for the rest of my life.
That's where, but for me, that's exactly where skateboarding got to. It's not at that level currently, but after that summer of getting very broken, but I mean, luckily nothing serious. I mean, I have a bone fragment in my hip floating around that it gives me problems every now and then. But aside from that, it wasn't, no other broken bones during that time. And once it
was the next year, right?
Yeah, maybe it's the next year. Well, it was only a wrist, though. A small little bone in the wrist. That's not that big a deal. I did it. Again later.
It was kind of a big deal.
Kind of. I mean, it was all right. It's fine. I didn't know it was broken for like a month, though. I thought it was just sprained. The next time I broke it, I knew it was broken. What'd you say?
The repairing that, if I remember right, was
no. Later. So when I broke my wrist, when we were still in Spokane skateboarding, that was just like a small little crack. And that wasn't a big deal. It's just a cast. And I was actually really upset because I didn't know it was broken. I thought it was sprained. And the trainers at Eastern didn't, so I was still pole vaulting during that time. And they're like, kept on taping it and wrapping it. I think I did 2 meets with it broken. And I this
is when did you fall down the stairs?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Quote unquote fell down the stairs. You can't tell the track coaches that you broke your wrist skateboarding. And so the trainers would tape it up before the meet, and then I would put duct tape on it after, because the tape job wasn't quite enough. I needed to mobilize a little more, and it was excruciating to pole vault with it. And it wasn't getting better, so they sent me to the doctor to get an X-ray, and the doctor came in and was like, "Okay, so we're going to put a cast on," and I'm like, what are you talking about, a cast? I'm like, it's just sprained. And it's he's like, show me the crack. But I think like 5 years later is when I broke it again. And that one was a big deal because it dislocated also. And but again, aside from those 2 times, those broken wrists, the skateboarding then got to that point where I'm like, I was improving, but I knew I was good enough and wasn't taking enough risk, or so much risk that I couldn't bail everything pretty easily. And then but now because of life changes and I just haven't been able to go as much, I have now backtracked, and so I've lost a ton of tricks, and it's really frustrating to go and skateboard because I still feel what they all feel like, And there's no reason why I can't do them. I just haven't been skating enough. And so they don't feel right. And so they scare me out of my mind, which is then also really frustrating because I hate being restricted by fear. And so then you go up and you're going to do this basic trick that you've done 1,000 times and never fallen on, never had a bad time. And you just like, you get to the apex and you just throw it away because you're like, something spooked you. And you're like, whoa, what the hell is that? Like,
yeah, and it might have been real or not. Like, there's so many things that you bail on something because you know intuitively you're off by an inch, and that inch might really take you out. Or you kind of think, maybe I am, and you're not really.
Nowadays, it's not. There's nothing there. I mean, yeah, maybe like 1 out of 10 attempts, there might have been something a little off, but now it's just like, nope, it's just me. It's just me being scared and like simple tricks like a rock to fakie I can't do on my local bowl, because it just terrifies me. Frontside airs, I've lost like so many tricks through not skating the past 3 years consistently and very much that it's been a struggle to deal with, you know?
Yeah. And if you're not used to falling hurts.
It can. Yeah.
You stop doing it the right way and stuff. Like, that is when you get hurt. Like, if you do it all the time, it's not a big deal.
And that's kind of where I was going with, like, the skateboarding did get to that point where, like, falling wasn't a big deal. Like, I'd gotten to a stage where taking a fall was not a problem, and I wasn't taking such big risks like we kind of were back during that summer of learning how to skate bowls, and like just that learning how a bowl works when you're learning to skate. You know, it's just different than riding down a hill, and so it takes a little bit more. And
going so far above your ability level.
Yeah,
you know, we were pushing hard rather than being around your ability level and then just adding a little piece. Right. Like, no, we were going beyond where we were. Good enough to ride constantly to try and get that good quickly.
Exactly, but that was the thing where once I moved over here, like I still wanted to progress, and like skateboarding became a lot more fun than snowboarding because, again, it was easier to get to.
Right.
I remember going snowboarding up to Silver a couple times, like before we moved over here, and thinking on the chairlift and being like, I could just be skateboarding right now. Like, it's spring, you know, I know the bowl is dry. I didn't have to drive an hour to get here and then sit on a chairlift to take like 10 runs and then sit in a car and go. And like, that was, in that moment, that was so painful to me. I'm like, I just don't care about this at all, you know? And like a thing that I enjoyed so much of, and it was just like lost. It was gone. I'm like, nope, I don't care. I'd rather be skateboarding right now. This is not fun.
Yeah, that is the great thing about skateboarding too, is you can just go do it and then be done. Yeah. You know, you can go, man, if you're skating by yourself, 15 minutes can destroy you. Yeah. To where you're just worn out and you're good to go. And compared to snowboarding where it takes a whole day most of the time. Right. And, you know, and even then it's kind of hit and miss as far as what the weather's going to do and all that. Yeah, nowadays snowboarding is super fun if I'm with the right people. If I'm not with the right people, it's just not enjoyable at all anymore. Well, that is what keeps me teaching all the time, is because I have all my friends. I can grab someone for a run all the time. You know, I've got people that I just love to ride with that are just there, and I'm there a couple times a week. So you get all of that. And so same thing though. That is like my favorite thing. And you know, and having that good crew. Because if I didn't have that, again, snowboarding by yourself, it's not fun. Yeah, and I'm jealous and envious of you and Mom and Dad and Tiana always riding with like that close knit group of people over there. It looks like so much fun, you know. And it's a blast, and you can get creative with it all. You know, you've all ridden together so much that like, oh, we can go have fun on the bunny hill or whatever. You know, basically we can just make something interesting no matter where we go. Yeah, and it is wonderful. Yeah, and it's I miss the feeling of riding so much that everything is an afterthought. Like, you don't have to think too much about the setup. Like, the last couple of times I've ridden with you, it's not scary, but things go through my mind of like, I want to go here, I want to try this, like on like just suddenly, like we're riding through a thing like, oh, I should pop up here and do this, and I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't, you know, because I haven't been riding a lot. My skill level is like, it's competent, it's fine, but
there
But you're on your third day for the year, and I'm on my 30th day for the year.
exactly. There's just a different type of competency.
That's a big difference in how your leg's going to react to things.
Yeah.
What you're intuitively going to do.
Yeah.
How comfortable you are landing a thing. All that changes just depending on how many miles you have in recently.
It's the intuition, like you just said. It's the intuition of it that gets lost. Like I have a certain amount of, I have a baseline skill level, so my intuition is at that level. But when you're riding a ton, your intuition gets a little bit higher. And that's what I don't have, but I remember having, so I think I can do it.
Totally. Yeah.
And that's where it gets lost.
Hey, to shift gears briefly here, but we have our listeners have requested some things that I want to get by you.
Both listeners requested something?
There's more than that. I mean, we are internationally known, as you've seen. We have someone, we have fans in Costa Rica and Finland. Was it Finland?
Yeah, because Nikki was in Finland, and I think I have a client that listens that was in Costa Rica briefly.
Okay, yeah. So we are, internationally renowned. Yeah. No, but I do get feedback from several people pretty regularly, and so two things that have been requested. One, actually, the main one is for us both to do the same workout again and then discuss how it went.
Okay, good.
So for instance, like we talked about doing the 800 repeats that we did. Yeah. And
that awful workout.
Yes. Now here's another awful one that I think you're going to hate more than that.
No.
Because this is what the request is long, slow distance.
God. Okay. I mean, no, I'm. That's the thing is, I'm up for a challenge. I'm fine with the challenge thing. What is it? Like, is there something specific?
So I think there's two. Well, and I think it's more just so that we, to do the same thing and talk about how that reacted for the two of us. Because with as much as we both run very different ways. We're both training drastically differently.
Yeah.
And our relationship to running is also very different. Yeah. We come from totally different backgrounds. So, so as we do similar workouts, it then reacts with us very differently. Yeah. So. Anyway, and then the other workout that was requested is to do a version of fartleks. Yeah,
I've done so many fartleks over the years. That was our rest day in college. It was every weekend go do a fartlek, and I didn't know what that was at first, but I pretended I did, quote unquote. And so I would just go.
You like sped up and slowed down.
I would just go run for a while.
The downhills were a little quicker.
And I didn't really know. I'm like, oh yeah, I know what a fartlek is. Yeah, you just go and then you go slower maybe and then faster. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's a fun challenge here. Where let's after this, let's put something together here that we'll both go and do.
Amen.
And see, and then discuss how it was for us.
I won't go over 7 miles. I just don't have that kind of time.
Well, I was successful in my pancake run that I did it slow enough to where I was really hungry by the end. Unfortunately, I was really hungry at mile 10. Like so hungry. Like I was running with Mike Atkins. And he is very much trained for longer distances more than me. He runs a lot of, ultra marathons right now. He's training for a 50 miler down in Arizona he's going to do soon. So anyway, so he's trained that way very, very well and knows how to like bring things along or eat and drink while running and stuff. Yeah. And I am not trained that way. Also, I don't have very much experience that way either. I'm not good at that. Yeah. And we hit right around mile 10 and I was so hungry, and I brought nothing with me, of course, because usually a half marathon for me is like, an hour 35, an hour 40, somewhere right in there. And at an hour and a half, I can run an hour and a half. I can work out for an hour and a half with not needing anything. Yeah. But it's close. It's like about 2 minutes after that hour and a half, I'm in trouble. And anyway, and so we took off slow. We talked the whole time. It was just great, and so, it's purposely not racing, we're going along at a just fine clip and everything. But it took us, we ran it in just under 2 hours. Okay. So we were like 8:40 pace or something like that. Okay. And, anyway, but yeah, with 3 miles left, I told Mike, I'm like, hey, I'm struggling hard. Like, I am so hungry right now that my will to keep moving is almost
Oh
gone.
no.
Like, I don't want to just. And then, like, my legs started to feel fatigued. Everything started to feel so
Yeah.
fatigued, just from running for so long. And luckily, he saved the day. He had some gummies there that seriously helped so
Yeah.
much. And yeah, I was able to just like, I got one stuck in one of my teeth and just sucked on the pieces of it for a long time, just so my body would feel like something's going in there. And yeah, and that helped. I mean, really saved my life because
man.
I was not going to make it there. And it wasn't, yeah, and we were running from the valley to downtown.
Okay.
So there's no like turnaround point
Yeah.
or, help of any kind.
It's just you just got to
I
make
have to
you
get
got to
there,
make
huh?
it there, right?
I gotta make it, but nothing in me wants to make it there anymore. I just like there's a McDonald's a few blocks over here. Can we just
Yeah.
go there and call Christy? She can pick us
Yeah.
up,
Okay, so long and slow. Well, man,
Long, slow.
what would the slow have to be though? Like, how slow do you think we would need to be?
I think it needs probably we need to go off of heart rate more than anything, right? So,
I can go pretty.
and probably a good discussion with that too is, there's a big kind of fad going on right now to a degree of run slower to go faster is like a phrase you hear all the time, right? We've talked about that a little bit. Like, yeah, it totally works, but you also have to go faster.
You also have to
too.
go fast.
Your fast days have to be faster. Your slow days can be way slower, but your fast days have to be then way faster, right? And doing that definitely works. So anyway, I think we need to do it more like according to probably heart rate or something, like zone 2. Zone 2 for over an hour.
Yeah, what would that be like? Now that's.
I think you got to be slower than 8-minute miles.
That's too low though. Wait. Is zone 2 like zone 1 is the lowest, zone 2 is next, zone 3, zone 4, right?
Yeah, zone 1 is like and I might be butchering this because I'm not a heart rate guy really, but I think zone 1 is like you're moving.
Okay.
Like walking around the house. Zone 2 is like the next step above that. So it's you're in the low 100s.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah. Oh man.
So you're like 100 to 120.
That would be so. Man, that's a tough one. I don't know. I could go pretty fast, keep my heart rate that low.
That's not the point.
I know. I could though. I bet. Okay, so then remind me what a fartlek is. Make sure I'm correct.
Well, we should probably look up. Let me get the exact definition because a fartlek and intervals are not the same thing.
No, and I've heard this. Being loosely in the running community for a long time, I've heard so many different descriptions of a fartlek.
Yeah, so let's find the definition. So fartlek training, which translates now, fartlek is I always thought it was German. Fartlek is Swedish, and it translates to speed play in Swedish.
That's fun. I like that.
Yeah, that is fun. Anyway, so it's similar to interval training. It involves varying pace or difficulty while maintaining cardio. So basically, actually, really, according to this, because I thought it was a little bit more defined than that. According to this, basically, it's just changing up your speeds during your run, random variations in speeds and intensity.
Okay.
Alternating between bursts of sprints to slower recovery jog.
Oh, hold up. Let me silence this. Okay, there we go. So basically, when I did my very first fartlek back in the day, I was right.
Yeah, you played around with some speed.
I nailed it.
So what I was trying to do is basically pick a spot in the distance, go fast to there. What was usually said is to do it like about at 80%. So, for whatever distance you just picked, if you picked a quarter mile away, what's 80% of how fast you can run a quarter mile? And then you're going to jog as slow as you want to until you get to the next section and then pick another one again and go again. But I think the point here, to a degree, of this versus intervals where it's really, like our 800s was intervals where it's very structured, where it's like this amount of time you go fast, this amount of time you go slow, or this amount of distance you go fast, this amount of distance you go slow. In this one, you're picking different ones, so it's always varying. So I'm going to pick, that street sign down there, I'm going to go fast to that one. You don't actually know the distance, you're guessing. And then you're slow again. You're going to go slow, then pick another spot. Okay, when I reach this spot, I'm taking off again.
Yeah.
And just playing around with your speeds all over the place. And talk about so good for getting your legs where they get used to certain paces. Okay, now let's take that apart, and then and so your body does not get rigid into these are the paces I go.
Yeah, I do a great variation of that on my 3-mile run sometimes, where I go out and do half-mile intervals, but then I just get really tired, so I do quarters instead sometimes.
Right. Which makes it a fartlek, right? Because you were not consistent.
Exactly. I'm like, all right, I get like three half miles done, and I start the fourth one. I'm like, I'll just go to a quarter. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So let's plan them out this week.
Okay.
Let's pick a day to do either one of those. I think the fartleks probably need to be outdoors.
Absolutely, they have to be.
Yeah, because if we do that on a treadmill, it's going to get way too. You'll automatically fall into intervals for me. Like I'll get rigid about it.
Me too. And then the fartlek, it needs to be like some parameters to it, like a time spent or something like that, right? Like 20 minutes, 25 minutes of fartlek. Like, and there's gonna be some parameters so that we're kind of doing somewhat of the same thing.
Yeah, you want to do 6 miles?
Oh God. Maybe I don't know. It's so far. I ran 5 and 5 and a quarter the other day. That's the furthest I've ran in probably a couple of years.
We could shrink it down. We could go 4.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to 3.
No. 3 is too short. No, it would need to be because it would need to be like 3 or 5 or somewhere in that range.
Yeah. I would probably prefer to do my normal 6-mile loop, and if we want to do a shorter distance than that, I'll just really jog slow for the first mile to just get a nice warm up first, and then go.
Yeah, we'll have some parameters. Another fun one that we should do is an old track workout I have. That's you've done the distance variation of this, but this is the sprint variation. You go 100, 200, 300, 400, and then back down, but repeating the 4. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. With a 100-meter jog in between each one.
Okay.
But like 90% of every sprint. Just go as fast as possible, and you have to jog, so it technically moving between them, but the distance doesn't increase. It just stays at the 100 for every single time. But that will be a fun one when it gets a little warmer. For me at least, to go and do. Yeah,
we are hitting a time where you need to not be outdoors too much.
Not too much. Actually, no, it's fine. As long as it's a sunny day, I'll be all right. It's not that bad.
Okay. Well, we can plan that out a little bit. It's depending on what you need for that. Because, right now we still aren't getting snow over here, so I can run outdoors for a while. There's no weather in the forecast even. So, it's not going to affect me really at all.
But I do like that idea. I do like the doing the same workouts and contrasting and comparing them again, and then also doing we'll have to throw a couple lifting ones in there. I'll throw a couple weight workouts at you and see how you fare with those.
I like it. Yeah, because that is a bit of my focus right now, since I'm away from there's no races for a while. I'm ready to just destroy everything where I can't walk for a while in the gym.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what I'm going to go do a little bit later today. I'm just going to go, because I avoid leg days in the gym during race season because I don't want to take 3 days off while I'm trying to recover.
Yeah.
But right now it's time for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I'll have to throw some at you that are fun, some good sweet ones. We'll go from there.
Cool.
All right, we should probably wrap it up though.
Sounds good. All right, sounds good.
Later.